What did we learn about Zaven Collins? That more on this week's IDP Blitz. Matt Schauf from Draft Sharks. Matt, we're doing the great linebacker reveal. Week 1, the big reveal. And for IDP leagues, linebacker continues to be that most important position. So let's go around some important names and situations, starting with Zaven Collins in Arizona.
Yeah, and it's even more challenging now because there are fewer teams that are just, putting a set of linebackers out there and leaving them there. We have to guess at who's going to be playing sub packages. And of course, as we always talk about, Sig, we don't get any coverage of this stuff. They get mentioned when they get hurt. They get talked about if they're buzzing in camp, but I mean, we're guessing until the season starts. So now we can finally stop guessing and start knowing. And Zaven Collins was a key one for me because the summer reports seemed to indicate that he was going to be third in the playing time pecking order here, behind Isaiah Simmons, behind Nick Vigil. And that was not the case at all in the opener. It was Zaven Collins leading Arizona linebackers in playing time, 96% snap share, ahead of Isaiah Simmons, who was at 87%, ahead of Nick Vigil, who was at 51%. So I started out, when I first did my IDP projections, I was like, okay, Zaven Collins is a potential breakout this year. Then I knocked him way down. Now he's way back up because I think that the upside statistically is there as long as he's on the field. And it looks like he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, we need to get, we need to do, Matt? We need to recruit some beat writers to our IDP leagues, one per team. So that's the task out there. IDP players out there, we need to get it on the radar. It's coming. Also, when we was drafted in the first round last year, we thought Jamin Davis was coming, but then Cole Holcomb stepped in. We saw Washington upset. I don't know if I call it an upset, but it was a little bit surprising how Carson Wentz did. Was it surprising what Jamin Davis did after, like you said, the spotty coverage we get of IDP issues in the preseason?
We did try to do our part on the Draft Sharks pod, by the way. We talked to a lot of beat writers, and every time that we had somebody on, I finished with a defense question.
Yes.
So trying to make sure they're thinking about defense as fantasy as well. But yeah, Jamin Davis, I wouldn't say surprising. It's kind of what we were hoping would happen. I just blanked on his teammate's name that you already said.
Cole Holcomb.
No, I'm going to go with Mullet Man. He's not going anywhere. He was still the full-timer. Jamin Davis, 93% snap share, though, in this one. He reached 90% only twice all of last year, had 11 games under 60%. So he had only 3 tackles against Jacksonville. That's no good. We want some numbers before we feel good about putting him in the lineup. But 93% playing time is a better good thing than the 3 tackles are a bad thing from this particular game.
You come down here to where I'm at, New Orleans, while they were in Atlanta. They're already selling 2610 shirts here in Atlanta, by the way, Matt. They love anything they can do to dunk on Atlanta. What did Pete Werner do or not do to help the team against Atlanta last week?
Pete Werner put up big old numbers, and he was another one who was a rookie last year and didn't end up playing a whole lot. He cracked 50% just 5 times in snap share last year, reached 80% only twice. This year, though, he played 81% in the opener, put up big numbers. So, the kind of flip side of Jamin Davis, we see the huge numbers, and you want to say, okay, Pete Werner, it's his time. I'm going to go ahead and lock him into my lineup for the rest of the year. 81% playing time is enough. If he stays at that level, we can certainly keep using him. But it's also a level where we have to watch because he, like I said, he did reach that a few times last year. So it's possible that was just where they wanted him to play against this particular team. Atlanta ran the ball a whole lot. The passing game was a bit shorter range. So if we get other matchups where Pete Werner comes off the field a bit more, that would be a problem. But, from where he started, he's probably in week 2 IDP lineups, and then we'll see from there.
Yeah, Tampa Bay may be a little more balanced than we would have projected, at least this week. Tom Brady hates facing New Orleans. The next favorite team to face after Atlanta is Tampa Bay here. Patrick Queen, another first rounder. We expected him to be an IDP stud. It hadn't quite worked out that way. And he was also maybe even a player that we thought at some point earlier in the offseason, maybe this is a player that could be replaced or his role could reduce. What did we see in week one against the Jets?
Yeah, and Patrick Queen's a guy I've been wary about for the past couple of years because he wasn't a full-timer, but week 1 played 100% of the snaps. It was the second time in his career, in his 3rd season, that he reached 100% playing time. So, I just finished saying with Pete Werner, we'll have to watch and see. Obviously, we can't say for sure Patrick Queen's an every down player, but when you come out and play every single snap for just the second time in your career, I think we should expect that he's going to be at least much closer to that going forward. He also had 3 QB hits, led the team in that category in the game. That matched his season total for all of last year. So that's the big thing, is if Patrick Queen stays on the field full time, he's got that upside to make plays in the backfield. So like I said, headed into the season wary of him. That's flipped now to me seeing lots of upside in him.
We didn't really have any information other than Devin Lloyd was a first round pick for Jacksonville, and Jacksonville also installing a new defense over the offseason through the preseason and camp. Certainly, Travon Walker made an impact. Probably one of the plays of the year, honestly, on that screen pass. What about his fellow first round pick in Jacksonville?
Yeah, and by the way, Travon Walker did play more than 80% of the snaps in that game, so we like
Wow.
everything about his debut. Devin Lloyd spent all of August basically out with a hamstring injury. So when he was drafted, I mean, he was this guy who could do everything in college. He made it as an off-ball linebacker, then he made it as an edge linebacker. So it's like, all right, as long as he's on the field in the NFL, I'm just going to take him and see what happens. A little bit worrisome that he was out for so long with the hamstring. You have no idea what his role is going to be right away. No reason to worry. 90% playing time in the opener, team high 11 tackles, 8 solos. I'm starting Devin Lloyd going forward.
Yeah, a lot of people had him going ahead of Quay Walker, or maybe even a top 10 pick at different points in the draft season. So he's showing that he deserved that. All right, no, a little more amorphous situations here. Let's go more of a team-wide look, starting with Atlanta. With Deion Jones, the drama ended up he's going to be on IR to open the season. We had Michael Walker, Marshawn Evans, kind of reunited with Arthur Smith, Foye Oluokun now in Jacksonville. So there were some openings. Also, Troy Anderson, the second round pick of the future. Anything there in the present? What did we see with the big reveal in Atlanta?
We saw in week 1, Michael Walker played every single snap. Rashaan Evans played all but 1 snap. Neither guy put up big tackles. It wasn't a great setting for tackle production with the Saints running the ball on just about a third of their plays. 6 total tackles apiece, but Michael Walker added 2 tackles for loss. He had a strip sack. He's a guy who's flashed some talent before and just needed playing time. So it looks like that's going to be there at least as long as Deion Jones is out. And I mean, I think it was really just the guaranteed contract that kept Deion Jones from being sent elsewhere at some point this year. So there's no lock that he's a starter once he comes back. Michael Walker would be the guy that I'm betting on over Rashaan Evans. We had enough time seeing Rashaan Evans as a starter in Tennessee, not living up to his first round draft status. So, it's enough playing time for him to get tackles going forward in a deeper league. But between them, Michael Walker is easily the guy that I'm more interested in.
Getting a lot of questions in the chat room, like seeing the chat room and the IDP talk going on from our people. They're actually talking about Kumu Grugier-Hill. Yeah, he is the real deal. But he used to play in Philadelphia. We saw a revolving door of linebackers in Philadelphia, but they brought in some important names. They drafted Nakobe Dean. They brought in Kazir White. Of course, there's TJ Edwards, who had a great offseason. They brought in Hassan Reddick, who's kind of an edge / strong side linebacker. What did we see when they went up to Detroit?
Yeah, they signed Kazir White. They drafted Nakobe Dean, but it was TJ Edwards who was there last year as the only every down linebacker for the Eagles against the Lions. I thought Kazir White looked good, but he played only 74% of the snaps. That's kind of down a level where you don't really want to trust him in IDP lineups going forward, unless it's a particularly deep league. And then Nakobe Dean only played 3 total snaps. So it looks like he's got quite a bit of work to do before he's into the starting picture. We'll see where it goes going forward, because this was a nebulous core last year that really switched up a lot who was in there. But TJ Edwards finished last year as a starter, looks like the guy for now, at least. So if you're playing an Eagles linebacker in week 2, it should be TJ Edwards.
What about Detroit? We had Derek Barnes last year, a pick that looked like they were going to groom him to be the middle linebacker, but then Malcolm Rodriguez, 6th round pick, this year comes in and steals headlines, or the headlines in the 38-35 loss to the Eagles about the Lions linebackers.
And the Malcolm Rodriguez is somebody I instantly got excited about in the pre-draft process, because you look at him and he tested well. He was a starter throughout his time at Oklahoma State. You look back to high school, he was a state champion quarterback. He was a champion wrestler. He's just one of those guys that it's like every single level he has been a winner, is the kind of guy you want to bet on. And he was a day 3 NFL pick. It seems like basically just because he's short. I mean, it's not even like he's tiny. He's not 205 pounds. He's like 5'11", 230 or something like that. And that's fine size for a linebacker these days. Sure enough, starter in week 1, only played 60% of the snaps. It was Alex Anzalone still leading that group at 92%. I would love it if Malcolm Rodriguez played all of the snaps right away. I'm encouraged at least that he was starting right away, and I think that they're going to start giving him more playing time as the season goes on. They started training camp not with him as a starter, trying to goad the veterans into keeping him out, and he forced his way in. So I think more is coming. I think Malcolm Rodriguez is a stash where you can help it at this point. The playing time makes it tough to start him until that increases, but I think that there are big things ahead for him. Then behind Rodriguez, it was Chris Board at 40%, Derek Barnes at 29%. So those are the challenges, is if they want to just keep mixing in everybody, then maybe they don't get Rodriguez to, 90+% playing time. So we'll have to watch the playing time to see if he's going to be usable, but especially long-term, I'm excited.
Alex Anzalone is not known for his durability. Other than give up long touchdowns to tight ends, what did the Denver Broncos linebackers do on Monday night?
Yeah, well, that's going to happen when you go with Alex Singleton as your one linebacker that's on the field for every package. That's what Philly showed us last year. I mean, there's a reason that the Eagles let him walk and he signed for a modest 1-year deal in Denver. Obviously, it was not the Broncos' primary plan. They want Josie Jewell to be at least their primary linebacker, one of the starting 2 linebackers. He was out with a calf injury. So Jonas Griffith has been a starter alongside Josie Jewell throughout the summer. He went down in the first preseason game with the elbow injury, missed a lot of August after that. There was a question at first whether he was going to be back for the opener. He did make it back in time to get ready, only played 58% of the snaps versus Alex Singleton playing almost every snap. So I want to see whether that was just a matter of knocking the rust off for Jonas Griffith, if they're kind of easing him back in, that it's still, close enough to the injury, or if that's what his role is going to be. Because we talked to Mike Kliss of 9 News on the Draft Sharks pod. I specifically asked him about Jonas Griffith. What is there hope for him to be a starter this year? And Mike Kliss is like, oh, he's not just going to start this year. I think that he's going to be the guy that's on the field in all packages this season. I was like, all right, sweet. I was already excited. Now I have, backing from somebody who watches the team all the time. So kind of similar to Malcolm Rodriguez, we have to watch that playing time because 58% is not enough for Jonas Griffith to get into our lineups. But if he comes out in week 2 and, plays starter level snaps, like near full-time snaps, I think the stat upside is huge for another guy who snuck through the NFL draft. And he doesn't even have the height issue of Malcolm Rodriguez. He's a big dude who was productive in college and then tested well.
Last one, and IDP outlooks. Big part of it also is how good is the team. And maybe the Cowboys aren't going to be as good. They're going to have that defense on the field more than we thought, at least for 4 to 6, if you ask Jerry, 6 to 8 weeks, if you ask anyone that's sane. What about Leighton, Vander, Esch? And we have Micah Parsons, and he's an edge. He's a linebacker. We know what Leighton Vander Esch is on the field positionally. What is he going to be for IDP?
He's going to be useful. It looks like 85% playing time against the Bucs in the opener. That is a level he reached one time all of last year, and it was in week 18 against the Eagles, where both teams rested a whole bunch of starters. He reached 70% playing time just 3 other games last year. So 85%, we want 100, but we'll take 85 for Leighton Vander Esch, especially because the only linebacker playing more than him for the Cowboys is Micah Parsons, who spends a lot of his time impersonating Dwight Freeney. So yes. I'll take Leighton Vander Esch at 85% or anywhere around there. There will be tackle opportunities. And like you said, as long as Cooper Rush is the quarterback, and I just spoke with Jerry Jones, he said that he expects Dak Prescott back by week 3.
Right.
But for week 2, we should get lots of rushes against this defense.
I'm just glad you said Dwight Freeney. As a Syracuse grad, as upstate New York, I was going to have a piece of my heart there. And Dwight Freeney got a piece of a lot of quarterbacks. Undersized, no.
It's that spin move. As soon as they show the replay of the Micah Parsons spin move, that's who I think of immediately.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's always wonderful to be back with the IDP crowd here. Again, Wednesday afternoons, look for the IDP Blitz. We're going to be joined by Gary Davenport in the rotation. All the great IDP coverage at Footballguys and at Draft Sharks from Matt Schauf, from John Norton, from all of our great writers. You deserve the best because you're the best and you're the classiest and you play the only real version fantasy football, IDP fantasy football.